that. So if you think
There you
there's
go.
like some non-empirical methodology by which you can acquire information about your reality, I'm all ears.
That's it.
Oh
So,
wait,
like, you have the concept of God, it has a particular content. But in order for Shawnito to fix the content that we want him to fix of the concept of God, he's got to rule out conceptual inverted spectrum by establishing a referential basis empirically. That's it.
so Shanito, would you say, like, for instance, like, yeah, inferential justification is typically what's philosophers think is needed, right, in order to, like, have a justification to believe something to be true or not. And are you taking, do I understand this? And you take an extra step to say that inferential justification must be empirical?
No, no, no. I'm saying there must be some sort of methodology by which I can acquire, like reliable, testable methodology by which I can acquire information. And as far as I'm aware, the only methodology
Okay.
that I have access to is empirical.
Okay. Now,
So
would you
until somebody
count
provides me with something else, I can't do anything with like just
would you
statements that
count
I
your
can't invest.
would you count your five senses as being like valid empirical like tools?
Well, unfortunately, everything that I understand about my reality comes through those senses, and I understand that there is some level of reliability and unreliability with those senses. So until I I can find another methodology that bypasses them, which I don't know if that I don't even know how that would even be possible, then I have to rely on them, of
Right.
course.
Okay. That's why I'm wondering, because, and Seanito, you know that I love you, so I'm not trying to stand here and give you a hard time. So please just talk about it for a
No,
second. It
I
seems
don't, we're
it
fine,
seems
dude. You and
it
I are fine.
seems it seems like in some ways, right? Like if you sort of come to that, like, uh, I don't want to use the word realization, or just like you're just reserved to saying, okay, fine, I don't really have much more than my senses at this point, then it seems to me that, like, that would be a good basis for you to say, if my senses are, correct, like, if, well, not correct, but if I'm having intuitions that are based upon my senses, that would count as like an empirical data point on your view.
So I'm confused. What
Sorry
is
about
this
that.
relating to? No,
Well,
no, it's fine.
because,
It's fine. I'm just
sure.
curious, like where are you going with that? Yeah.
Oh, well, what I'm saying is, because a lot of times when I understand, like, what MJ was saying is, like, it has to be like a repeatable, testable, like, methodology, right? But it seems to me that, like, the one methodology that you certainly do accept is your own, your own five senses, because on your own view, like you just said, you don't really, you find it incorrigible. You can't not accept them, because that would be a problem on your view. Um, and so, since you
Right.
accept those almost a priori, it seems to me that, like, there is a fix to what you're saying about the agnosticism, to say, well, if my five senses are like legitimate justifications for me to believe something to be true or false, which you'd already accept, then that would be like, it seems to me that that could be like a shortcut, like almost like a heuristic, for you to accept certain concepts that people are giving to you, provided they can jive with your five senses. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, there has to be some, like, because concepts aren't free floating. They're not like there's no Bluetooth signal between your brain and my brain. And so the words that we're using themselves aren't concepts. They're just the arbitrary symbols that we use to assign to the concepts that we form
Sure,
in our
sure,
individual minds,
sure.
right? And so when you make statements about reality that I don't have some sort of referential base, it's not that I can't form some concept with the word that you're using. Um, but I don't know if the concept that I'm forming in my mind refers to the same thing that you constructed in your mind. I have no access to your
Okay,
mind. And so without some sort of referential
Inverted
basis that
spectrum.
you and I can both point to, I can't, one, say that you and I share the same concept, and I have no reason to think that the concept that you formed in your mind has any referential basis in reality, other than you maybe reading a story, forming the concept in your mind, then becoming emotionally attached, and then projecting it onto reality, because that's how it appears to me. And the
okay,
reason why I think that that's how it appears to me is because that's always what I'm being told to do. They're like, read this story, you know, think about it as it's real. Like these are the words being told to me by theists. So like, how else am I supposed to take that other than they want me to form a concept based on the stories that they've read and then project it onto reality? Like, why would I do that?
Okay. Okay. Thank you. But I think what I'm trying to get at is it seems to me that you already accept concepts as reality because of your own incorrigibility to accept your five senses. And I think what you're saying here, if I hear you right, is because I don't have access to their mind. I don't know what their senses are. I don't know if they're lining up with my senses. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I would say that that's part of what I'm saying,
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
you know,
At least I'm on the right track.
because
Like
yeah,
inscrutability of conceptual translation, maybe.
right. Yeah, I think MJ, you kind of nailed it on the head. You used some terminology that I'm unfamiliar with, but when I Googled it, I was like, yeah, that actually fits my model pretty accurately. So thank you for that. I appreciate that, dude.
I think all my terminology I got from you, honestly. Wait, which one? Which terminology?
Well, you were talking about like some inverse like concept,
Oh, you told me
something
that.
or
Yeah,
other.
you told me that. That's what opened my eyes. You told me it was kind of like inverted spectrum in Phil Mind. You told me that one day.
Those words did not come out of my mouth.
Oh, they didn't.
Inverted
Okay,
spectrum.
maybe I had
No, that's
misremembered.
somebody
My bad.
else. No,
Okay,
but I like that. I like that.
okay.
Well, you should just say from now on that they did because they're pretty cool words, Johnito. You should just go ahead and lay claim to it. MJ's going to allow it. He's not going to tell you that you can't do it.
Well,
I got that from somewhere.
how is that different? Is he? What's up, Mike? Is he basically an empiricist then? MJ, is that what's going on there or what?
Well, there's more than one kind of
No,
empiricist, but he's a specific maybe
I
kind
think
of it.
he's like
But
he's
the
an
thing Shawnito wants you to
external
do is not
empiricist.
like
He's
Shawnito
accepting.
wants you to like not label him like and to ask him what he is. Uh, that's what
right.
I've found in listening to Shawnito.
Yeah, so by like for me, an empiricist is based on how I understand it, is somebody who thinks that the only way you can acquire knowledge is through empirical means. But that's not my position. My position is that I'm only aware of knowledge that I've acquired through empirical means. I'm not excluding the fact that there could be a way, a non-empirical way. I'm just unaware of it.
Right. Well, that's why I was asking you about your senses. It seems to me that that's not empirical. When you say you're unaware, I think what I'm suggesting is that you think about the idea that because you accept your own person, you're sort of I think therefore I am sort of thing.
Sense
I,
awareness is like the
right.
definition of empirical.
Right. No, but what I'm saying is because he accepts the idea that he has intuitions, right, about things, that seems to me that is a way for you to get around that problem.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what you're alluding to, Tim. Maybe somebody can
I'll
translate
think
that
of,
for me.
I'll think about it a little bit more and try to see if I can get it out like in a better form. Maybe MJ can translate it for me. He's very smart.
I'm overrated, but I missed what you said. I'm sorry, man.
That's all. MJ never listens to me. He doesn't like me.
Shawnito is Shawnito is a methodological naturalist. He's not a philosophical naturalist.
Yeah, I would accept that.
So MJ, what do you think of this? I'm not aware of something, rather than saying it isn't the case. What do you think about
Yeah, he's leaving it open. Just because you're not aware of X doesn't mean X doesn't exist. He just isn't aware whether or not X exists or something. That's my first stab at it.
that?
I mean, Andrew, you were looking for people that like understand my position. I think MJ has been pretty spot on. So, I mean, there you go.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I don't really not much of a contention there. Yeah, that's good. So what would you say? How do you interact with that, MJ? What are your thoughts on his position? How do you feel that like where does it differ from yours? What do you think is
Well,
how
I
would
think
you?
first of all, it's clear that MJ is the Shawnito whisperer.
Yes, that's true. That's clearly the case.
Can you change your name, MJ, to Shawnito whisperer,
Does
just
this
for the
mean I get
name?
a trophy?
Yes.
MJ could probably be the psych whisperer too. That would be an awesome conversation. So, MJ, psych talked to Ethan for quite a while. It was actually really cool. It was actually a really good conversation.
Who
Um,
who talked to Ethan?
Psych,
Psych.
the Hulk.
I'm driving right now. Is he in?
Oh,
Where is Ethan? Anybody seen him?
he's just kind of taken.
Converse said he talked to him the other day on Discord.
He did. That's right. Yep. Ethan's around. He's doing okay. He's just kind of doing his thing. Still probably doing his PhD stuff or whatever. And I don't know. I think he wants. He's just I think he has a little bit of a. I think Clubhouse is like his kryptonite. So he's got to be careful. It lures him into different ways that he doesn't want to be. I think.
Oh yeah. I mean, especially with his studies and stuff like that, he doesn't want to have people go, "Well, you were saying this on Clubhouse the other day," and
Yeah, well,
they're
that's
not taking him
yeah.
serious, kind of thing.
Tom Rabbit hasn't been very helpful in that
Yeah,
area.
yeah. Well, the Shroud of Turin thing was because he was just trolling with that, and then Tom got him pretty good. Admittedly got him pretty good on that one, and that was like the moment I think where Ethan was like, if I'm fucking around on Clubhouse and that just gets recorded, that's just not gonna be a good look for me.
Well,
He's a smart kid.
what's interesting is I think Ethan affirms the shroud, so that's why it's kind of like I don't know, man. It's pretty wild. That presentation actually that guy gave that I brought over from TikTok. Ethan was interviewing him basically. MJ was there. Justin was there. I think their credence level in the shroud went way up, and mine certainly was kind of affected as well.
Well, I wish I was there to do that, but my question is this: like, if you, the idea is like Jesus was died on the cross, right? Right, and then he was crucified,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
they that very same day they took him over and they put him in the tomb, right?
yeah. I think that's the idea. They put him in a
Okay,
beer shroud.
right.
Yeah.
But would that have been technically enough time to clean him up? Because if it was true, the Shroud of Turin, like his face would have been covered in blood from that crown of thorns. Like it wouldn't if you would have wrapped him in like burial cloth, it would have just been a disastrous mess. It would be like, if I had a animal and I slaughtered it and I wrapped it in like butcher's paper and came home and I opened up the butcher's paper. It would like look nothing like the animal because it just been smeared in blood everywhere, right? And that's why I don't understand about the Shroud of Turin because it's like this perfectly preserved looking face, and there's no blood on it. There's it's not like smeared and dirty. And he had been sitting on the cross for how many days, sweating and people throwing things at him. And so I always wonder, like, even if you just accept, okay, there was some burial cloth that went around him and somebody saved it, it doesn't seem that it would look that like that similar um,
Yeah,
to Jesus. Do you understand what I'm saying there?
yeah, I do. Well, just to be clear, so Jesus wasn't on the cross for several days. He actually had a relatively quick crucifixion compared to others, at least that what we know, as far as how crucifixion goes, from what I understand. And
But didn't he have to carry his cross and wear a crown of thorns to get to where they put
yeah,
him up on the cross?
but
So
yeah,
clearly he had gone through it, right? He would be dirty and sweaty and covered in blood. His all the blood would have been like dried on his face, and clearly, I mean, you watch the movie depictions of him, he was just soaked in blood, right?
yeah, I think, but I think things can coagulate rather quickly. I mean, I wouldn't think they
But
would
that
just.
wouldn't be like his perfect face. If I covered my face in blood and then I took a towel and I did that, I don't know if I would be like it would just because the Shroud of Turin has this look like this, like sort of majestic looking Jesus, right?
I mean, I don't know that. I don't know. I didn't get the vibe that it was like. I don't know if you could pick up like dirtiness or like bruising and stuff like that. I don't know that that would be.
Well, blood certainly, right? Because what is if what's the Why do we have a picture of his face on the thing? What is that attributed to? His sweat or just the imprint of the cloth being there for 3 days? Because it seems to me
Oh,
that if the cloth was there for 3 days, it wouldn't be like that.
well, the idea is that it basically looks like a negative, and so what's being said is that it at the point of resurrection, like it was like a negative was overlaid onto the cloth. So it was like a extremely high volume of radiation, and I don't know exactly the way they describe it, but it would be
Okay.
yeah. So that it would
So
just
it's
be
not that they're saying they laid a cloth on him and his face made an imprint on the cloth because of like time. It's more like there is it that they're saying when he resurrected there was some like you said, a radiation or something, and
yes, right,
it caused the fibers in the cloth to change. Is
yeah,
that
that's
what it
right,
is? Okay.
right.
Okay.
Basically
I
captured
understand that
it.
now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's a little different than
Like a
just like
photo, like
right.
you had like a silver,
Yep, yep,
Okay.
yeah, yep.
Okay.
It's different than just like an organic, natural, molding to his face or something like that. It's different than that, right? It's like more like it's an image of his face being, overlaid on this on.
Burned into it or chemical.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So we
Hmm.
could both agree then that what I was saying before, if that was the case, that it was just then I would be correct in
Oh
if that
yeah,
was the case.
I think so. Yeah, I
Okay.
think that
Okay.
would be very strange if it was just supposed to be like, like those tattoos you press to, those candy tattoos you press to your skin, get them wet, and then pull it off, and there's, if it was that kind of thing, like you're just getting a mold of Jesus on the cloth, that would be, I think there would be all kinds of stuff on there that would be much different than what we see. So I think the way they're saying that it's being um, overlaid or impressed upon this fiber is from like light in extremely high rapid um, irradiating of the cloth.
But wouldn't it be light from the outside, not underneath? I think I saw something a long time ago where they like explained this on like the History Channel or something like that, and well, I don't know if
Uh,
I was paying
yeah, I
attention
guess I
correctly.
don't know. I mean, I didn't know that it had.
Yeah,
It's
because they use like mirrors to explain it and recreate it. So I don't know if they like really examined the substance, but you're talking about like that veil thing, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I don't know what it's called. The shrine
The
veil.
Shroud of Turin is basically the burial cloth of
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, that's what's being. And it's a pretty big deal. There's
How
a
do
lot.
they go about authenticating like the origin of it?
Uh, yeah. Well, there's different groups of people, so not everybody has access to it, and there's different groups of people that are working on it. And there's people who are opposed to it being authentic. There's people who are in favor of it being authentic. And it is an interesting discussion back and forth. So there's
Where'd they
very
find it?
oh, where is
Yeah,
it?
that's my
Well,
point. It's like I'm saying is like what authenticates that somebody picked it up, saved it, and then it was found later on? Like, how do we have like a chain of like custody that would take it all the way back to Jesus?
They did a DNA test.
well, there's one thing is that they are saying that they looked at the burial cloth and the weave that it was made in, and they are saying that is consistent with first century weaving, but it's not. It's also consistent with other uh, times in history. So it's not
Yeah,
only
but also like they could have picked up the cloth from the first century, right? The cloth from
sure.
the first century could have survived, and then they like imprint the
Yeah, sure,
image
of
much
course.
later.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. This isn't like some kind of yeah. But then one thing that's being said is that they've analyzed the pollen, and that it comes from particular plant life and whatnot that is indigenous to that region. Um, there's some other stuff that's being said. It's pretty wild, man. Um, Yeah, and I think it's still ongoing. It's like an ongoing deal. And there's in the Catholic Church, I don't know if they've got an official statement on it, but there is a ton of
Hello,
criticism.
bro.
Do they have a? Do they have they allowed
I'm a
like
sister,
skeptics?
little sister of Hulk. Hello, nice to meet you.
Thank you. That's really impressive. Thank you. No, what I'm saying is, Andrew, are you aware? Do they allow like skeptics to come in and examine and do the same types of
Well, they
So
have.
tests?
this room, Andrew,
They
this
have.
room is have problem. Okay,
Okay, you sound like you have a problem.
I don't have any problem.
Okay. Do you believe in God?
Try to say L.
I
Let's see if
believe
you
in
have that
God,
problem. Say the word L. Or
and everybody want to talk in English, really?
English.
Oh my goodness. What can you say? Can you say L?
L
Well, that's your first problem.
or L or
Now say R.
Say
or
fried rice.
fried rice,
Oh, that's pretty good. Now,
fried green potato. I know, fried green tomato.
Say you look lovely.
Look lovely. Look lovely. Look lovely. Look lovely.
Oh boy. Do you yeah.
it
Espanol, do
is
you
true. It is true, Andrew. You do attract an eclectic
Yeah,
group of
my
people.
it's good to
ability
go.
to listen.
Well, Espanol, do you believe in God?
No, no español. No, español.
Do you believe in God?
I'm,
Espanol,
I believe in God. I
do you believe
said
in God?
second time. Okay, Andrew. I said already.
You do believe.
I'm believing.
Okay, good. Can,
Why?
can you
That
convince
is the
psych?
rust way to survive. Okay.
Yeah, well, psych has been surviving without believing in God. Can you help psych?
Psychopath? Or what is that?
Might say so, but he just goes by psych.
So your word choice, okay? Words choice, Andrew. This is very particular, okay? Particular, huh? Particular. So, and they want to talk more freely, I think, always. But your smile is always make them happy. Um, Thank you for talking with me.
You betcha. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Did you want to give? All right. Well, that worked.
He's good. That was fun. That was entertaining for about 2 minutes.
Sorry, this is my way. Okay, this is my way to do the crop.
Psych, have you ever gone rounds with concrete on God's existence?
Yeah, here and there. I mean, it's kind of. Yeah, I'm sure we have. We've talked about. The last thing I remember we talked about was it was what was it fucking called? Where you die, oh, you almost die or some shit like that.
Near death experiences.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. At this point, like we've been hanging around each other for so long, it's like everyone kind of just knows, you know, where they stand. So it's not too many new people.
Not what? What'd you say?
There's not too many new people.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think Concrete's rhetoric has gotten worse.
No, concrete's fucking, in
No,
my
I think his
opinion,
rhetoric was better back in the day.
I think He's probably one of the more gifted people, like no bullshit, in the sense of like the how he can fucking just interact and play the game. Like you fucking take him light, you're gonna get fucking, you'll get dropped. So, and then people pretend that their annoyance is the reason why they don't want to interact. So, yeah, I always say it, like you just imagine like if you went to war, like who would you want on your side? Who would you not want on your side? You know, and it's like you would probably want a concrete.
Well, but what about when he's on the opposite side of the war, Mike? Are you going to switch
That's
sides?
exactly how you can. That's why you like analyze it. You see like how well they do. Like if you're just assessing people, like let's see here, Milith is on the opposite side of you, right?
Yes.
Wouldn't you want to go? Wouldn't you want him on
What's
your
that?
team?
What's that about Miller?
I'm saying like if you went to war, wouldn't you like relative philosophy war? Wouldn't you want him on your side?
I mean, yeah, it'd be great, but I
Yeah,
mean, if we have
because
like, you know,
it's more of like how they perform than like I'm assessing performance more than like positions.
oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I got you.
And some people like you just to me like you got to give respect where respect's due in the sense of like, and this is like amongst all topics like you know you got politics, you got humor, you have a bunch of shit right that like involves how to interact with people, and some people just don't fucking like I don't know like who is somebody that's like annoying. Let me think here, but smart. Oh, I don't like. Okay, I'll tell you. Like these are the people, type of people I should say that annoy me. I hate storytellers. If I go into a room and then you're talking with somebody and they start telling a story, it's like, oh, get the fuck out of here. I can't stand that. It's a weakness in my opinion on their side.
The worst is like when people just ramble or like tell stories, and then like you try to like interrupt them to make the conversation like more coherent or like focused, and they just like scream to bloody murder that people are interrupting them, and then
Yes.
continue rambling.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like, bro, fucking. This is. Yeah. I think that's a
Yeah,
weakness.
I actually like stories as long as like the esoteric gibberish is not involved. You know what I'm saying?
It's just hard for me to pay. Like, you want to have some like interaction, and then you could just, to me, I should say, I could tell that the ones that do that are not the ones that are used to like actually sparring with an opponent. They're used to shadow boxing, meaning they'll throw the punches, but no one's there, and everybody can look good shadow boxing.
Yeah, like the stories I don't like are like like I was meditating and I aligned my chi with my chakra, that type of shit. Just really like I can't stand that.
Where do you start? Like when you want to, yeah. What was being said earlier about like empiricism and your five senses was the person trying to say that your senses was some form of like empirical evidence of some kind?
Empirical
Oh,
evidence is defined by your five senses. It's
I
evidence
know.
that's available to the
I
five
heard you
senses.
say that. So like, like the way we can examine, the way we know about this concept is through our five senses.
Correct.
But are we also examining our five senses? And is that a form? Is that examination, the product of the examination, a form of empirical evidence itself? I don't know if that's what the guy was saying. Was it you, Tim? Oh, wait, I don't know if he's still here. I couldn't really follow.
Yeah, Tim was trying to assess my view, my agnostic view, and he was talking about something along that line. He did say something I didn't quite understand, and he said he was going to reformulate it and come back. So I don't know what he's planning on doing there.
Do you? But the way I'm asking it, is that what you thought he was saying?
I'm not quite sure what he was saying.
Oh, so you just had no fucking idea.
Not really, not really. I was trying to follow along, but maybe I just need to think about it more and connect the dots.
Yeah.
I am curious, since we are at a lull here. What is your guys' thoughts on um, subjectivism and relativism? Do you guys think that subjectivism is a form of relativism? I don't want to name names, but I had a conversation
I
with
would.
somebody that,
I would.
yeah, right,
Yeah,
right,
I would.
exactly. So I find it very interesting that like two very high prominent individuals in these rooms, especially they frequently visit Andrew's rooms, um, completely told me that that's wrong, that is not the case. So
What
I'm
did
just curious what
ChatGPT say?
people. Well, I mean,
It
I didn't
isn't the
have to
case.
go to ChatGPT, but yeah, it does agree with that sentiment as well. My
Millet.
No, no,
understanding
no,
was
that's not right.
of subjectivism is that it is a relativistic view.
Wait, so you're saying wait, so Millet, you're saying it's not?
I'm
So
saying
like
it,
if you
it can be, but it's not always.
okay, so if you drew a Venn diagram, right, would those two things overlap at all?
Yeah, they would overlap, but like there would be parts of the Venn diagram, right, that would be like a subjectivism that isn't a relativism.
What's an example of non-subjective relativism?
No, I think what you mean is what's an example of objective
Yeah, yeah,
relativism.
that's another way. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So like uh, objective relativism is something. Sorry, like objective relativism is something like um, I can think that morals are subject, right? They're like pinned to an agent, right? But I can still think like what that agent is saying, right, is like objectively the case, right? So just because like morals are like subject to an agent, right, doesn't mean that they're actually relative,
Got it.
right? So
So
just
let me
think
ask.
about someone who like believes in like divine command theory, right? Like someone who believes in divine command theory can say that, right? Yes, it's subjective. Morals are subjective insofar as they're determined by God's like
Okay.
person, right? But they're not like everything God says, right? Is
Yeah.
like the actual moral thing to do, right? So it's subjective to God, but it's not relative.
So let me ask you this then. Okay, so in that case, they would be following a rule, and the rule itself is what makes it objective. Because you said even if you analyze God's thing, you can find that to be subjective. So, okay, I think I see what you're saying. Okay,
So
I see what you're saying.
so for me, like moral relativism is that the idea that actions are moral or immoral, uh, uh, sorry, to something, right? It's a more broader sense, right? Like it could be like a society, it could be an individual, it could be whatever, right? But it seems to me that moral subjectivism falls within that paradigm, right? It's like an aspect of moral relativism. So I'm just really confused to say like how does that not even how does that not even make sense?
I wasn't really. I'm still thinking about what Mel said. So
I'm still trying to understand what Millis, because he said objective in there. I'm like, why is he saying objective when we're
I think
talking
he's
about
talking about what people
relativism and
consider to be
subjectivism?
objective. I don't know if it's actually the case that it is objective, right? But if people consider,
No, no, no.
yeah,
Maybe I said objective. I misspoke if I did. Like what I meant to say is it's subjective, right? It's
yeah, you
based
did
on the
say that.
subject who is God,
Yeah.
right? But it's not relative because
Well,
God's like subjective belief is what's moral, right? So it's not relative to like different agents, but it is subjective to God.
okay. Well, let me ask you this then: do you think that morals changed? Like, and I don't know much about this, so I'm being serious. Did morals change at all from the Old Testament to the New Testament?
Oh, I don't know. That's a question for Andrew. I have no fucking clue. I would assume so.
So wouldn't that mean in that time frame you had different moral, objective morals than you would when the New Testament came out?
Well, so it's not like the question is not about like subjective or objective, right? Because like the smart divine command theorist is going to say that like morals are subjective, right? They're going to agree with that because the person who is responsible for morals is God, and God's a subject, right?
Yeah.
So they're going
Oh
to
no, wait,
agree that
actually,
it's
what I just said supports what you're saying. So no, you're right because
Well,
yeah, I see what you're
just
saying.
to be clear, MJ's a modified command theorist, and he's going to say morality is objective.
No, that's fine. I
no.
don't.
I'm not. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. I'm just saying. A person can hold the view that morality is subjective to God, but not relative, right?
Well, I'm
So
just
it's
saying.
not.
You said, well, the only thing I was commenting on is because you said a smart divine command
Oh
theorist.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. All right, right.
presumably, you don't think MJ is not smart.
MJ's an idiot.
Okay.
I'm obviously joking. I love him.
So let me see if you agree with this, Milith. This is how I read it, and this is what ChatGPT is saying: is that moral relativism is a broader concept that suggests that moral judgments are true or false only relative to some particular standpoint. For example, cultures or individuals. Right? That's what I would call moral relativism. And then subjectivism is the more narrower sense of that, which is to say that it is a specific type of moral relativism that claims that moral truths are relative to an individual's beliefs, feelings, or opinions. I mean, would you not agree with that?
I'm not sure I tracked that completely. Could you say it again? Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So moral relativism is the broader concept that suggests that moral judgments are true or false only relative to some particular standpoint, for example, cultures or individuals. And then moral subjectivism is the specific standpoint that moral relativism claims that moral truths are relative to an individual's beliefs, feelings, or opinions. It's a more specific form of moral relativism.
Um, like yeah, I think in some cases that is true. I just don't think that's true in every case.
No, but what do you mean you don't think it's true in every case? Can you explain that?
Yeah,
Like, I
sure,
didn't quite understand.
sure. So like, um, you don't even need to think about like the God example. Just think about like someone who's like a Western chauvinist, right? Like, someone could say that like morals are relative to like the culture that you live in, right? But the like correct morals, right, are the Western ones. So like
But that is a culture.
you can
The
be a
Western is a
subjectivist.
culture.
You can be a subjectivist, right? So you can say like morals are subject to whatever culture you're in, right? But also maintain that they're not relative, right? You can say like
No,
I
but they are
believe that they're
relative
subjective to the
to the
culture.
culture.
No. But they're not relative because you think one is correct over all the others.
Well, no, but that is your subjective view on the matter. We're talking about, like, if somebody asks me, what is your view on whether or not X is moral versus what is your view on the society's view? Like, what do you think this society's view is on this action as being moral? Like, those are two separate questions.
Yeah, I agree with Shanito here. Yeah, like Milith, like yeah, I mean, even if it's like relative to someone like a culture, that doesn't. I mean, you might perceive that to be objective because everybody agrees with you, but it still stands dependent. That's all he's saying. Yeah.
Yeah, the stance is relative to either the individual or the culture or whatever you want to input in there.
Yeah, like
That
the only way that morals could be like stance independent is that like they would correspond to like some mind independent state of affairs, right? Like that there's some like
But
kind of like the sun, like
we're not talking about
you know.
objective or subject. Like we're not talking about
right.
objective versus subjective. We're just talking about like, can you have a subjective view that's non-relativistic, right? And
Oh,
the answer to that
okay.
is like
Yeah.
straightforwardly
I
yes.
see what
Like,
you're saying.
right,
Yeah,
like you can have
yeah,
a view of like theistic morals such that like God is an agent, so it's subjective, right?
yeah.
But what God says is like what's actually correct, so
Mm.
therefore it's
No,
not
but
relative.
you
It's
know
not
you
Well,
know
wait a
what,
relative to
minute.
Milith?
like other
By
agents, right?
saying it's correct, saying it's correct, you're saying there's a fact of the matter independent of your subjective stance, which is by
You know
definition
what?
moral, which
No.
is
There's
an
no
So
there's
objective
no fact of the
stance.
matter independent of God's subjective stance.
Well, when
yeah,
you
yeah,
when,
yeah.
when you
So
So
say
God's
that it's when
subjective
you say
stance
that it's
is the correct one.
correct, I know, but when you say that it's correct, you're saying there is a fact of the matter.
Yeah. No, so you know what, Shanito and Milith, right? So the closest thing to what the closest thing that comes, sorry, the thing that comes closest to what Milith is suggesting, from my perspective, is what they call constructivism, right? And Thomas Nagel kind of tries to provide an account for that, even though that they're stance dependent, we can have morals, that we can define, let's say, using some kind of rational, like rationality alone could sufficiently lead us to, you know talking about what is right and wrong objectively, because it corresponds to like a state of affairs, right? Like reality. For example, like what Thomas Nagel argues for is that, like something like life, right? Like life ought to exist, seems to be the way that life operates, like all around, like the one thing that life wants to do is to survive, right? Like whether it's like bacteria, viruses, all the life that we observe, tries to preserve itself. So you could say that, the self-preservation of life could be the stance that is like mind independent, because reality seems to conform to that, preservation of life stance. Does that make sense? Like that's how people typically try to defend, like some kind of rational morals, without claiming that it has to be objective, right? But you're still saying it's like subjective, but it's like the closest thing to objective as possible because it corresponds to reality. Does that make? Because if reality was otherwise, right, like we could live in a world where life is not that good at preserving itself, and like that would be a different set of morals. Um, so we're not saying that, like, the preservation of life is objective, but we're saying that it still corresponds to a state of affairs, um, from what we observe, like from the observations that we make about reality. Does that make sense, or am I just like babbling? Yeah. I probably butchered that a little bit, but yeah.
I mean, you would agree, Milith, that when you say like a position is correct, to me that sounds like you're outside the bounds of relativism at this point, right? Or subjectivism. To me, it sounds like you're saying that there is a fact of the matter independent of a subjective view or relativistic view. You're
No,
saying
no,
like
no, but
somebody is
but
correct,
Shalito,
right?
just because, look, let's say we have a stance, right? Let's say we have a moral stance that is based on the state of affairs of reality, right? Like, just because we say that doesn't mean that we're making the claim that therefore it's objective, right? Reality is the way it is, right? It could be otherwise. If it's possible for it to be otherwise,
Right. But we're not talking about reality.
yeah,
Again, so when I'm talking about morality, I'm specifically talking about what we ought or ought not do in virtue of X, whatever you input the value for X is, right?
yeah.
And so like what compels me to do actions is in virtue of what?
No, no, no. Exactly. So that's what I'm getting at. Okay, so let's take a very simple example here, because I mean, I kind of want to take the side of Milith here. So, for example, Shonido, you know how like our human biology and like basically the biology of every animal in the world has like some pre-programmed instincts, right? From where they're kind of deriving their oughts, right? Does that make sense? So, for example, like, my desire to eat food, right, is not something that is relative to a culture or social standard. It's just it's
I
it's
agree.
it's coming, yeah, it's coming directly from, like, my human biology. So there's no thought, there's no like inferential thought process going on. It's just like this constant input that my body is giving to my consciousness, that, hey, Nizam, like, if you want to live, you have to eat, right? And that's the same input that every biological organism is receiving in their, like, whatever their mental states, right? That, hey, if you want to survive, you have to eat food. So it's not even relative to, like, some cultural standards. It's relative to, like, our biology. And so I
Well,
think
yeah,
that
but
could be,
you provided the imperative. If you want to
yeah.
live, like you provided the imperative in that. You
No, no,
provided
but
the
I'm saying,
virtue.
no, I see what you're
Like if
saying,
you
but
want to
I'm
live,
saying that, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, Shanito, but I'm not saying that. I'm saying that imperative is not coming from, like, I'm not making that up. That imperative itself is coming from my biology. Does that make sense? So like our
Well, yeah,
biological
I would
instincts
agree that you and
are
I have
imperative.
desires and
Yeah,
instincts. Yeah, and that
yeah, yeah,
instinct is like to eat food when I become hungry. You know,
yeah, yeah.
there's this drive.
So
Yeah,
I'm making a
but that
distinction
drive
between.
doesn't tell you whether or not if you want to live. That's just instinctual. It's like you're not
Yeah, yeah,
actually
yeah.
eating because you understand it's going to help you
No,
survive. You're
no,
eating
no, no.
because
But
there's
it's like
the
it's
instinct
it's
to
kind
do
of like.
so. Like,
So there's 2 points here, Shanito, right? The first thing I'm doing is that I'm making a distinction between instincts and desires, right? Desires could be something that are born in the mind, right? But instincts are not born, like they're kind of pre-programmed. First thing I'm saying. The second thing I'm saying is that like that imperative to survive is coming directly from biology. Like it's like this, this 10,000-year evolutionary process that's leading us to have these instincts that you must survive, right? So
well,
therefore,
no,
like,
there's no like thought process about survival. Like biology doesn't care about whether you survive or not. Right. So the
no,
only
no, of
thing that
course it does.
matters is whether or not you get
No, no,
is the
no.
only thing that
Of course,
matters. The only thing that matters in biology is if you get to a point to reproduce. That's it. Everything else,
no. Well, no, no.
it's
I would
irrelevant.
argue against that. Like, for example, like when it comes to like like the instinct, not the desire, but the instinct to secure food or secure, like, let's say, to reproduce, is not something that is being born from like some kind of conscious thought process. And the evidence of that is that, when you look at like all of the organisms in nature, that's what they seem to be doing, whether they have a mind or not, you know, like from jellyfish to plankton to like, trees to like,
But that's just all
you get what I'm
biology.
saying?
It's not a drive to
Yeah,
survive.
it's chemical. Yeah, yeah.
No, yeah,
It's like
exactly.
this
But yeah,
chemical. It's like,
something
right.
about having a desire to live or die is something I think only sentient beings can do. And it's something that we contemplate. But like your basic biological drive isn't to survive itself. It's to
Well,
do things. It's like there's a stimulus and there's a response, right? Like if
yeah,
you lack
I mean,
sustenance in your
I
body,
am,
there's that it's going to cause a stimulus. It's going to cause
yeah,
a
like,
response in your body to produce
so,
a drug
so,
called ghrelin, which
yeah, yeah, yeah,
which
but yeah.
which activates your body's hunger sensors basically.
Yeah.
And so
No, no,
you're going
but
to
see,
eat
like,
food at that point.
yeah, yeah.
It's
So,
not
so,
thinking about like, oh, we have to eat food to survive. It's not thinking that.
no, no, no. Yeah. So, like, I know where we're getting stuck, right? So where we're getting stuck is that, like, I am essentially just like what Thomas Nagel is saying, right? So Thomas Nagel and me both, like, I would agree with him on this, right? So he is deriving an ought from an is, right? He's saying that, chemicals, right, that are in my brain, right, like that kind of motivate my actions, right, are basically, you are deriving an ought from an is. You're saying that the chemicals, like, for example, like trees are not really saying it, right? But trees behave as if they ought to live, right? And same with plankton. Plankton isn't really saying, like, bacteria
Yeah,
isn't
I
really saying
disagree.
that I ought to live. Yeah, 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 and that's fine. Like, I mean, that's a view that, so people that agree with you, Sean, they will say that no, for us to even make an art claim, like a mind is a necessary condition, right? But then, that depends on your view of consciousness, right? So like Thomas Nagel would say that no, like you don't necessarily need to have like this kind of higher order conscious process for us to then be able to say that that's some kind of necessary condition for us to have an art, right? You can have arts without like this kind of complex conscious, like, mental process, which is fine. Like that's basically where the conversation boils down to, like, like whether you agree that, these kind of subconscious processes, right, or like semi-conscious, is a better word to say it, like these
I wouldn't
semi-conscious
even call it
processes.
that because for you to be conscious, right, you have to be aware of your environment and have the ability or the capacity to interact with it. To me,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
if
but
you're
but
talking about anything else, then we're not talking
yeah,
about the same thing at
no,
this
but
point.
see, Sharito, like the thing is, it, to have like a fair, honest conversation, right? We cannot. I mean, typically, like most people, we would not look at consciousness as something that is like, something either has it or it doesn't. Like typically, it's like, when we talk about consciousness, it's viewed like in this kind of like spectrum, because like, you know would you say that, for example, animals, for example, do you think that they would be agents? Like, do you think that animals have the
Yes,
ability to?
anything with a central nervous system has the capacity to be
Okay.
conscious by
Okay.
definition.
Okay. Central. Okay. Okay. So okay. So you're saying that like, so you're saying that like animals are capable to, you know, have like moral stances, basically. Like like animals would
Oh
believe that they
yes,
ought to live.
yes. We
Okay.
we we view
I
we
see.
view many different animals in the animal kingdom having their own moral systems. Yes, it's not just
Yeah.
something that's humanistic.
Yeah, I would share that intuition too. Yeah, I would agree with you. Okay, but I wonder where you like draw the line. So I see that you're saying that central nervous system. I'm just trying to think of like, the thing that has the least amount of central nervous systemness, and still be considered moral.
I'm sorry,
Let me
that
think.
didn't
So
make any
jellyfish.
sense. Least
Yeah, no, no.
central
It's,
nervous system is like, I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I
Like
was
the
thinking, like
brain is what I'm referring to by central nervous system.
yeah. So okay, let me think. So how about ants? What do you think about ants? Do you think like ants have like the capacity to
Yeah,
understand
they
like,
have a brain.
Then why don't we
I
give
mean,
them voting rights?
no, they have a
interesting?
brain. They have a brain. So wait, what was
Hmm.
it? You didn't finish what you were saying, Nizam. But
Yeah,
yes,
I mean,
the ants do have a brain.
yeah, I was just trying to think through this, right? So then basically what you're saying is that ants are then capable to understand like oughts and ought nots by virtue of having a
No, no,
brain.
no, 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 no. No, I didn't say that everything with a central nervous system has a moral system. That's not what I said. But I said that it is
Okay.
a prerequisite, in my opinion, based on the information that I have, to have a moral system is you must have a
So
central nervous system.
yeah, that makes sense. So if it's okay, can you give me an example of like something that has a central nervous system but that then is unable to understand like, these moral, because for you that's possible, right? Like you're saying that it's possible for something to have a central nervous system and not understand like moral
Yeah,
claims.
yeah. Like I mean, there are many animals like ants, most
Like
insects.
ants. Okay.
Yeah,
I see.
ants. I mean, ants themselves do things like problem solving, which is very interesting. There's a lot of data to
Yeah.
back this up. But like other animals like fish, many fish don't have more. Some
So then
probably do. Um,
yeah.
but
So
yeah,
so
yes.
then so then my next question would be, what do you think, Shawnito, is like the necessary condition for a central nervous system to have to be able to then comprehend like odd claims? Like what are ants and fish missing that, like, let's say human beings have? Like what is that like extra layer of consciousness, I guess, or awareness
The
required?
ability to empathize. The ability to empathize, I think, is one
Empathy.
of the central focuses around what you ought or ought not do.
Mm.
Like morality seems to be centralized around empathy.
Mm. Empathy. Okay, that's interesting. That's an interesting view. Empathy. Okay. I see. So ants. So you're saying that like ants basically are not really operating from a place of empathy. They're just basically like kind of they're kind of like they have consciousness, sure, but they're like these kind of chemically programmed to behave in the way that they do without actually like, you know, without actually like caring for doing good or or like caring not to do bad. They're just kind of doing things without like, experiencing empathy, which is interesting actually. That's a
Right, right.
yeah.
They don't really have like an empathetic nervous system as far as you and I do. Most of what they do is chemically driven, especially by the queen. The queen sends out signals. They send out their own
Yeah, like
signals for the
yeah,
pathways by which other ants will follow. They just seem to be like entirely chemically driven, but they don't really think about like what they ought or ought not do. It just seems
yeah.
to be entirely instinctual.
Right. So so you're saying right. So this is where like Thomas Nagel and probably me would disagree with you, but like so you're basically saying that like you know chemicals are not sufficient in of themselves to you know to allow for odd claims because those require some sort of empathy, like under your view.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again,
Yeah.
um, but again, it seems to be empathetically driven. However, like there are, people that are psychopaths, right? And they don't really care about the well being of others.
Yeah.
And so their oughts are going to be entirely driven by their own instincts, independent of like some empathetic system. But they're not the prevalent people on this planet because we understand the benefits of like cohesive societies when they work in conjunction with each other and they actually care about each other. It'd be very weird if like the the what's the word I'm trying to think of, the evolutionary path favored uh, psychopaths. That would be a very interesting thing. I
Mm.
just don't see how that's even feasible.
Right. Yeah. 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 Because I mean, like something like empathy, from what I understand, is part of like the evolutionary process because it's something that's necessary for us to live in communities and to want to cooperate with each other. Like, so we develop like this whole part of the brain that deals with like communication and empathy because that was apparently like a necessary part so that we can live together and cooperate and like distribute tasks, etc. But I'd kind of want to read about this a little bit more, like, because yeah, I mean, it's yeah, like this is going in interesting places, but yeah, let me see if I can find something good. Yeah,
I mean, I get like people want to intuit that plants are thinking and doing things, especially, like the example that was given to me, like trees are, I think it was yesterday, I can't remember the individual's name, certain trees that are being eaten will produce like some chemical that they'll excrete to
yeah,
stop them from being eaten. But to me, that is
yeah,
just
yeah,
like, that is just a response to a stimulus. Right? Like I don't
yeah,
see there to be any need for like a central nervous system for that to occur. It just seems entirely biological
yeah.
chemistry.
Did you hear about like how like if there's a forest, right, and there's like a tree that's weak in that forest, then other trees will like pass nutrients to this tree through the roots, because
But yeah,
the
that's
forest
just a
behaves like
stimulus and a response. Again, like if the tree that is like low in nutrients and they're connected through their root systems, there's going to be a stimulus in the tree and it's going to
no, but
respond in some
no, no,
way
no,
that
but
other trees are
the
also going to receive the stimulus from the response from that tree.
no,
And
no,
in
no.
turn,
Well,
it's just like this constant stimulus and response.
no, no. I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure it's reducible to that. The reason I'm saying that is because, like, technically speaking, based on like survival of the fittest and like how we understand nature, nature typically, primarily fends for itself. So it's very counterintuitive, or counterproductive, for trees to like release their nutrients to support another tree. Like we wouldn't
No,
expect
no,
that.
but
We wouldn't
you're
expect to
you're
find
begging
that
the
in nature.
question when you say that. They're not releasing. You're begging the question because you're saying there's an intent there. I reject the notion that they're doing it to help the other tree. To me, it's just a stimulus and a response, and we can artificially engage these responses by providing a stimulus to these trees. It's not
I
like
see what you're saying.
we
Yeah,
ourselves are
I see
trees,
what
but
you're
we
saying.
can elicit these responses in other trees artificially.
Yeah, I mean, like, I wonder if something like this has been rigorously tested in the lab. But I understand your intuitions. Like, I understand why you're saying what you're saying because, like, you're just staying consistent with that view. I'm just trying to push back against it, but I mean, I'll have to find like something good to, yeah, challenge that view a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah, just be careful not like the moment just look at the things you're saying and see if there's like any presuppositions built into the thing, if there's any
no, but no, no,
premises
but
that
obviously,
have
like
like
yeah,
unjustified
yeah,
claims
yeah, but
built
you have
into them.
commitment. No, no, but you already have commitments, though. Like, and like it's obvious, right? Like that the fact that like there's commitments in this conversation. Like you're saying that like it's that for them to have like these things of empathy and etc. Like that like XYZ is required. Like, but I'm just saying like maybe not. Like I'm just saying like we have to rigorously evaluate the possibility that maybe that's not the case. And I'm not sure if like the scientific literature like points to either view like necessarily. But I'll have to do my research about this. Like I'll have to understand because like this is still like one of those open topics in philosophy. Like, but yeah. Okay, let me look for stuff.
Yeah, cool, dude. Anybody? Oh, Rob, you wanted to say something?
I wasn't on one of the topics you were talking about because I lost signal anyway, so I didn't hear what you guys were saying. Yeah, but my man
Oh, got it.
Nizam here has been a bad losing streak this week. It's probably one of his worst losing streaks I've noticed.
No,
I've been taking L's
you're
left.
just good at swaying, Rob. You're just good at swaying the room in your favor. But yeah, the debate tactics. Yeah.
Well, the floor is open, and we got a lot of people in here. If anybody wants to bring up another topic, or if anybody wants to continue or have any questions about the topics that we've currently talked about so far.
So one, you know what? Like, it's interesting because like I've been thinking about this lately on the idea of moral subjectivism, right? Like as a theist, because I'm kind of leaning towards that these days. Because like a lot of theists want to say that morality is objective, and when you ask them why, they would say that it's grounded in God, right? But that's still a stance, right? So for something to be objectively moral, it has to correspond. It has to be like mind independent. Basically, it has to correspond to like the state of affairs, like of reality, right? But if we're saying that morality depends on God, that doesn't actually make it objective. That just still makes it like stance dependent, right? So I'm not sure why
There is a
theists
way to do
now.
this, though, right? The Steelman version of it is that God's nature is intrinsic. God's nature is not subject to his opinion,
Yeah, no, but
and God is
that's still a
informed by his
circular.
nature, and that's how he's
Yeah,
objective. Now, you
no,
could do
I
that,
get.
or you could just say, but he's another agent. And look, I've got a nature. I don't think that's a good response, but
Yeah, it's not. It's
somebody
not. It's a
could take that
circular.
view, right?
Yeah, like I mean, that view is still like a circular response because they're saying, okay, like the reason why it's objective is because he has all the knowledge in the world, or he is just by definition. But then that's basically tautological. You're saying that it's objective because it's
No, but all they're
objective,
saying
right?
is, no, but hang on, you're misunderstanding. All they're doing there is showing that it's objective, because objective is stands for mind independent. And what they're saying is, hey, this is not dependent on God's stance. It's the way the world is. And objectivity is typically the way the world is. It's not open, subjectivity is like open to your opinion or your perspective or whatever. Here, God's nature is not, it's not like he's choosing his nature. He has the nature he has. It's like a fact of the world, and that informs, his moral compass or whatever the case is. So it's not circular. It's really to show that that's supposed to be quote unquote objective, as opposed to it's like my opinion about something. When God offers it, it's not an opinion per se. It's informed by his intrinsic nature. That's what they want to try and say.
Yeah, like I
But of
mean,
course, by that nature,
I don't know.
we could say the same thing. I'm informed by my nature, right? Does that make it objective when I
No,
say
no, but see,
something's
that's
good or bad?
yeah, like even if it's grounded in his nature, like I'm still not convinced that that's what make it objective. But the when we say something like this, right? Like God made reality, right? Like God is the author and the creator of everything that exists, right? And so when if morality corresponds to reality, that's what makes it
What
objective,
does that
and it
mean?
corresponds to what God is saying. That part makes sense. That part makes a little bit more sense because you're saying
How
that
does
okay,
morality correspond to reality? What
yeah.
does that mean? It's like a
So
buzz sentence. It doesn't
well
mean
because
anything to
like
me.
because like okay, like in this reality, right? Let's say like life wants to preserve itself, right? But that's because God made life to do that, right? Or so therefore like
Or it's just biologically wired to want to survive, or we have it built in as a survival mechanism. You can explain it
no,
with
well,
that
no,
point,
that's fine.
obviously.
But for a theist, like they would believe that life does that. Everything that happens in reality is because God made it so, right? So it's just like they would just see that reality as evidence of God, and that's how that you can ground morality in reality itself instead of grounding in the nature of God, right? Like it's it's just basically like the other. It's another way that theist is defending objective morality, but without grounding it in God. You're just saying that you're saying that it's grounded in reality, but reality is grounded in God. Therefore, like morality is grounded in God through reality. So it's like one step
Yeah, but you're
further,
just
basically.
pushing the
It's
problem back a step.
yeah.
How
But
does
it's still
God
a
ground it? Because he's
but
God in virtue of what is it grounded, right? If you're not going to say his
no, no. I'm
nature, what
saying,
are you going to say?
I'm saying the reason why it would be useful for some theists to do that is because if they're let's say they're not Platonists, right, and they're like let's say Aristotelians, and they say that well reality itself is sufficient to inform us of like objective morality, and God is the author of reality. So when you learn about what's right and wrong based on reality, you're actually learning what God wants you to understand from right and wrong, because God made reality. So
Well, I'm
it's
going to
the
challenge the
reason.
very first point. How is it that reality informs us about right and wrong? You just like me, that's sort of begging the question against the is ought distinction. I think there's a distinction that I've not heard
Yeah,
anybody
I mean,
successfully
yeah,
overcome.
yeah. No,
And so
no.
if you're saying
I
that the
mean,
way the
I'm
world
just,
is informs how
yeah.
we ought to behave, like why would I accept that? You'd have to motivate
No, no,
that.
no. You don't have to. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I'm,
you're
I'm
an
not saying you
atheist
have to
or a
accept any.
theist or whatever, right?
Yeah. No, no. I get what you're saying. You don't have to accept any of this. I'm just saying that, like how a theist who's committed to, let's say, Aristotelianism, or like or like who, let's say, for a theist who's not committed to like Platonism, this is how I would expect him to go about defending objective
No, how's
morality,
he defending it
because
though?
he's
He's just asserting it. I'm looking to hear the defense, not the assertion. I know what the assertion is. What's the defense for the assertion?
no, I'm well. There's two ways. Like there's the Platonic defense, and then there's like the reality defense. I'm just saying that this is how I've heard them lay it out. Maybe it's not a defense. Like, you can challenge any of these premises, like sure, like, but that's not what I'm getting at. I'm just saying that there's two different ways to
I don't
defend
see how
objective
the
morality
Platonic
for a
is a
theist.
defense, to be fair, but maybe I just haven't heard it sufficiently well.
No, no, no. The first thing that you said was a Platonic defense, because they're just saying that, well, objective morality is grounded in the nature of God. Like that's a Platonic defense, right? Because like they're saying
Is
that,
it?
well, there's
I
this.
thought it's divine command
Yeah.
theory, modified divine command theory. I don't think that's
Well,
Platonic.
no,
Platonic
no.
is like
Divine
some
command
sort of
theory.
like abstract or conceptual things that you can
Yeah,
appeal
yeah,
to
yeah,
in
yeah,
reality that's
yeah.
not God. That's what I
Well,
kind
no,
of
no, no.
understood it to
I'm
be.
saying like DCT or whatever is still compatible with both of these. Like, so the reason why it's Platonic is because you're taking something abstract and you're grounding it in something that is like all wise and all powerful, and you're
What's
saying, well,
abstract?
it's
What's the abstract thing is being grounded in God?
the morality itself, like morality, like right and wrong
No, but
itself,
that's
is
not
being
what
grounded
Platon.
in.
That's not
Yeah,
what Platonism is.
that is what Platonism is. That's literally what Platonism is.
Are
The
you suggesting when
Platonism,
somebody grounds morals in God, they are
yeah,
appealing to Platonism?
yeah. That's a
No,
Platonic
I don't.
defense of like, yeah, yeah.
No, I don't think so. It's not the way I've understood it. I mean, again, I'm not an expert on that, but
Yeah, you can. I
Platonism's
I
mean,
got
you
mean,
can
nothing to
ask.
do with
Millith
it.
Maybe I'm
here.
wrong.
Most
You can
theists who
ask
ground it
others.
in God are not Platonists.
Sorry, what?
Millith is
Oh,
here.
okay, the
He's a
Platonists. Yeah,
Platonist.
yeah.
He could tell you what his view on
Wait,
that is.
who? Who's a Platonist?
Millith. Millith is a
Millith. Oh,
Platonist.
Millith. Yeah, yeah. Millith was. Is what I'm saying making sense, or like no? Are you here, Millith, or no?
Maybe he's busy. I don't know.
Okay, I'll wait for Millith.
Yeah, but grounding in a God doesn't help you, right? Even if
It's
you
not
claim that
platonic. It's
it
not
was like
platonic.
objective.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, Rob. It's not platonic. I am busy though. I just wanted to make that point.
No,
Yeah, I didn't think so
no,
either.
no. Hold on, Millith. So let me have a back and forth with you real quick, right? So Platonism is grounding
He said he's
like
busy.
universals.
He said he's busy.
Oh, okay,
So
okay, busy.
when he comes
Oh, okay,
back, you
okay.
can have a conversation with him.
Yeah, never mind, never mind. Sorry. Yeah, but what
Like,
what I'm saying is like. Yeah, what I'm saying is like where you ground universals, right? So like morality is a universal, right? Like objective morality, morality is like, so for example, Aristotelians would say, well, universals are grounded in the particulars. So for example, the way that we know what red is when we see a red object. But then like a Platonist would say that no,
what?
like the way that you understand redness is that you see a red object, but then that your mind then goes to some higher dimension, the platonic realm, and takes this like property of redness and understands what it's seeing in light of that. So like there's like this objective like platonic realm that contains all these universal ideas that you have access to in your consciousness, and then like the theists are coming along and saying, well, we're just calling that objective platonic realm God,
That's very different to
where
God, dude.
Aristotelians are.
Look, I think I'm
Yeah.
not that well versed, but I think you're way off on this one. And you know,
Yeah, I could be wrong. Yeah, I don't
going down
mind.
that route is not helpful anyway. But
No, I mean
if you
it's
want to
just
appeal
different
to
ways that
subjectivity,
theism.
you can do that too. But grounding in
Yeah.
God, you know that that's not going to work either, right? So
Hello,
because then
moderators.
anybody else can
No, but
ground it via
obviously,
their own
like under
subjective
under
notion,
your
and
view,
you'd have
like
to show why
under
God is
your
like
view,
superior or some sort of source of
yeah,
grounding,
like under
and you're
your
not going to
view,
be able
none
to
of these
do that, I
defenses.
don't think.
Yeah, like look. Under your view, none of these defenses are going to work. But that's not really informative, right? I'm just laying out like
Well, I'll tell you why.
how
Obviously,
different
it's
views.
informative. I'm not just going to say it doesn't ground, and I'm going to give you reasoning for it. Like whatever your view is, if you appeal to God, try whatever you want to try, and I'm going to show you why it doesn't work. I'm
Yeah,
not
no,
just going to
that's fine.
assert it
That's
doesn't
fine.
work
Yeah.
like other
No, I
people I
agree.
know.
Yeah, of course. Like every argument has like some kind of arguments. Like that's not informative either. Yeah.
I'd just like to quote Osho when he wrote, "Now the mind is speaking, and this is one of the mysteries that the mind can speak and
All right.
knows nothing,
We're not
and
going to
the
have any
heart
of this.
knows
If you
everything
want to
and
keep
cannot
going,
speak.
all right.
Perhaps to know too much makes it
Yeah,
difficult to
don't go
speak.
into
The
gibberish,
I
please. That's not
removed him from the
helpful.
room. Don't worry. Keep going.
Wow. Okay, that's strong,
On
but
gib
okay.
on gibberish, Rob, I just wrote yesterday that even gibberish is somatic nectar. In times like these, it's somatic nectar. All of it is just
Is
somatic
that
nectar.
gibberish you're saying now, or? Oh.
Think about it, dog. Think
I
about
was just pointing out that Nazam has taken a lot of L's this week. He's successfully, which is extremely rare, united the Muslims and the atheists together, which like it's very hard for a Muslim to do that, but he accomplished that unwittingly. So I think by taking a crazy view that Islam abrogates
No, those
Christianity
are
and
no,
Judaism,
but Rob,
which was like
wallahi,
kind of
I
bizarre.
swear to God, the
I hope
Muslims
you
that
were
you think.
trolling and you've thought about that and gone,
No, no,
okay,
I wasn't
I
trolling.
lost
I
the
wasn't
plot.
trolling. I wasn't
Okay,
trolling, and I
you
haven't
can't still
lost the
hold to
plot.
that
I
position, can you?
actually, yeah. I mean, I can do that in this room, and if Cloud and Sully were here, they would understand what I'm saying exactly. The thing is, Rob, look, just because there's Muslims that don't understand what I'm saying, because like I understand like where the atheist arguments or where the atheist challenges are coming from, doesn't mean that that somehow like makes you right or makes me wrong, right? If you have like people that actually know exactly, for example, people that you trust, right, like Sully and or Cloud or whatever, like you can bring them to this room. We can go through the entire conversation again, and I can show you why I still make a lot of sense. Even Andrew could help me out here,
No, you don't make a
but
lot of sense. You are basically
no,
saying
that's
that from
fine.
the
Yeah,
Muslim,
that's fine.
because remember, you're
Look,
supposed to
that's
be
your claim.
defending Islam, right? And you're saying
Yes.
from the Muslim
Yeah.
paradigm, first there was Judaism, then there was Christianity, and then Islam came along 1400 years ago. And you're saying this from the Islamic paradigm. I think you've forgotten what Islam says, buddy. Everybody is a Muslim under Islam from Adam onwards. There was never real Christianity. There were people who claim to be Christians who follow a corrupted book. Some stuff is correct, the other stuff is corrupted. And the Quran came along to correct it all. Everybody is a Muslim. There's never been a true
No, but that's
Christian.
not.
But you think
Yeah,
there's
no,
been
but that's
true
that's
Christianity that's
shifting. No,
superseded
no,
by
but
Islam.
look, that's all. Yeah, you're appealing to look. You're appealing to like all these other Muslims, right? That's not even where the conversation started. The conversation started when you came up on that stage and asked the question to prove that Islam is exclusively correct, right? And I'm saying that what I was saying the whole time, and I still stand by it, is that we don't have to show something, we don't have to negate every other possibility of something to be true. So sorry, we don't have to negate every other religion in the world just to show that Islam is true. If I say that Islam is true, that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to demonstrate. Like we cannot demonstrate that Islam is true unless we disprove every other religion in the world. I was challenging that intuition that you were bringing to the argument, because
I never said
the way
that. What
that
are you talking
no,
about,
let me
dude?
finish. Let me
I
finish.
said
Let me
exactly the
finish. Let me.
opposite. I
No, no, no.
said
Let me finish.
that
Wait.
if
Let me
you show
finish.
Islam is true, every
Let
other
me finish.
worldview is false. And you said, no, 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 that's not the case. Do you remember?
No, no, no. Wait. Look, you were coming to
Yes,
the
yes, yes.
table,
That's what
and
you were arguing the
you
opposite.
were
If you show Islam is
you were
true,
coming
you
to the
haven't shown it's
table.
exclusively true. That's your view.
Can I ask a
You were
question?
coming to the table, and you were setting up an impossible burden of proof for the
Ah,
theists, right? So that's what I was trying to expose,
So
what's the
Nizam,
impossibility? What
basically.
impossible
can I ask
standard am I
Nizam a
setting for
question?
theists? When
Can I
I
ask
asked
Nizam?
you, who here on the Muslim stage can demonstrate Islam is true? Nizam pipes up and goes, oh,
No,
guys,
that's
hang
not
on a
what you
moment.
said.
Let me show you.
No,
This
no,
is a
that's not
trick
what you
by
said.
Rob asking
Can
you
I have
this
the floor for a
question.
second?
A
That's not.
standard
No, no,
question that
that's not
everybody
what you
asks
said.
each other.
No, 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 that's not what you said. You came up and you
Yes, it
said
was.
something very different. You said,
What did I say?
show in any Muslim show. You said, can any Muslim show that Islam is the only true religion? Right. The key word there is only, which sets up an impossible burden of proof. And I was trying to change your question to what you just said now, which you're finally like saying that, yeah, okay, that's a question with a lesser burden of proof, because we don't have to then necessarily negate every other religion to be false just to demonstrate that Islam is true, because that's built into the question. That's all I was saying.
Nizam, you're forgetting what happened, my friend. I
Yeah.
came up and said,
So
is there any Muslim on the stage? Because Al Jari said something about it. And so I came up and said, hey, is there any Muslim on the stage who can demonstrate Islam is true? That's what I said at the
No, no,
outset.
no.
Then
Do you
you
not
jumped
remember?
in.
Do
And
you not
because if
remember
Islam
using
is
the word
true, I
only?
take it that it's
Okay,
implicit, that it's
so you
so
don't
exclusively
remember.
true.
can I
So
have a
you don't remember using the word
so I
only
have a
then,
question. I have a question for
right?
Ms.
I didn't use it in the beginning, buddy.
I have a
Okay, then.
question.
All right, right. So then you dropped it, and I'm glad you did. Yeah.
So I
No,
have,
I didn't have it in the beginning, is what I'm telling you. I only
No,
tell you
you
that
did. You
because
did.
you
I
thought
heard it
that if
clearly.
Islam is true, you have to
I
show
heard it
everything
clear.
else is false. And I'm like, what are you
No,
talking
no, you
about?
don't have to. And that's exactly what I'm challenging. That no, you don't
You
have
are
to.
confused, Nizam. You are like
No,
deeply
you don't have.
confused again.
For example, right? Even if you look at science, right? Like, actually, this is a bad example. Let me
Look,
think of a good
you're just not
example.
remembering the conversation particularly well
No,
for
no,
whatever
I do
reason. I don't know
remember it.
why.
I
uh,
do remember it.
You
I'm
can I
wanted
telling
to
you, I
say
remember
that,
it.
hey, if Rob says to me, show Islam is true, and I show it, well, I still have to show that every other worldview is false. And I said, no, that's nonsense. If it's an exclusive worldview and it negates every other worldview because no other worldview appeals to the Quran and the
Okay,
specific
so let
tenets of
me.
Islam,
Okay,
then
so
Islam is
let me
true
ask
and
you.
everything else is false.
Okay,
And you were like
so let
railing
me ask you.
against this because you thought it was
Okay,
like a trick question or something.
no, no. So let me ask you a question so that you can be consistent in the future conversations, right? Do we have to show that every other worldview has to be false
so
for us to prove that Islam is true?
Nizam
Yes or no,
Nizam
Rob?
No, my friend, I've said this to
Nizam
you
does
multiple
it
Okay, great,
times. If Islam
Nizam
is true,
great.
does
So I'm
all
going
it
to
other
hold you
If
to
worldviews
that.
are
Islam were
false.
Yeah, I'm going to
true,
hold you to
all of
that.
them
no
would
Okay, great,
no
already have been
no
great,
proven
great.
Nizam
false.
I have a question for Nizam.
Exactly.
So
And
hold
I
on
said that at the
so
outset, man.
All right, I get what
Somebody else
Rob's
Okay,
say.
great.
saying.
Sorry,
Like,
I can't
if
hear.
Islam were
Could somebody else
actually
say anything?
true, then all of the other views we'd
well I
already
just
know
want to
they're all
ask
false.
Nizam so I just want to ask Nizam so Nizam, is it true that Islam says that all the religions are false?
Yeah, it's not. It's not true. That's not true.
Okay, so Islam maintains that other religions can be true.
Yes, possible. Yeah, not that they can be true. Islam says that other religions were true for a specific
No, they
time and a
weren't
specific
true.
place,
Can you give an
They
and
example
then
of
don't
they
any?
understand your own religion,
and then
buddy.
and then
That
and then
that
they
doesn't
stop.
make any sense.
Yeah.
It's
So
crazy.
No,
So they're
I
true
don't know why that
now,
doesn't make
right?
sense.
can you
All
give an
the other
example?
religions are true.
Like,
Nizam,
was
no,
there a
No,
time?
no,
Are
no,
you saying,
hold
no,
Nizam,
on.
no.
that
Under,
there was
So
a time where Jesus was the Son of God, and then that wasn't
no,
true?
no, 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 no. Well, okay, I'm
But
using the word
that's
true
what you
maybe
would
a
need.
little bit.
That's what you would need to say in order to say, Christianity was true at some point in time.
It was true when
Yeah,
Jesus
true.
was actually the Son of God and died
I think
for
I
everyone.
understand. I
Yeah.
think I understand
Yeah.
what you're trying to say, but
Yeah,
you're not
try
articulating
to.
it correctly.
Maybe I'm struggling. Can you help me?
Bob, can you steel
Can
man
you
what
help me
he's
like
trying to
steal,
say,
steel man?
please?
Yeah, steel man. What I'm saying, if you can.
I,
so
I'm not. I have only been in the conversation for 5 minutes. I'm just saying the way you articulate it now obviously doesn't make any sense. But
so
maybe
Yeah,
what
yeah,
you're trying to say
but
is something like,
yeah,
there are elements of these religions that are true, and the truth of Islam doesn't falsify those things. But that's not very
yeah.
interesting to say, because all you're saying is that the elements of other religions that are consistent with Islam aren't falsified by the truth of Islam.
Which is
Or
obvious.
I think what he also might be saying, because I've kind of heard this thing before, is it like, and it's kind of what you're saying, Bob. It's just like, look, prior to Muhammad, being the final prophet and giving this full revelation, people could believe in these other, they could have these other traditions, and insofar as they aren't affirming something that's like, I guess, radically opposed to what Islam teaches,
Yeah.
um,
Against the
it,
fundamentals, correct? Yeah.
yeah,
They
then
But
go
that but
so
that's like just
far as
that's
to
just
go to
what
the
I'm saying.
heaven of the other religion. Like,
well,
they
it,
don't
it
need to
would
go to the
okay.
Muslim heaven because they have the truth of the other religion, so they
They,
go to the
they
heaven, a different heaven than you're going to.
well,
Is
they could
that
be
fine?
wrong. Well, they could be wrong on all kinds of things. but they would still be accepted, they could still
Yeah,
be accepted
exactly.
They could go
even
to
Exactly.
if they're,
each of their own
yeah,
Yeah,
respective
Andrew got
heavens,
it.
is what I'm
Yeah, yeah.
asking.
because they're kind of judged according to the light that they have.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
going to
yeah.
be at
Like
the time.
before,
Right, so
exactly.
Yeah.
Christians go
Yeah.
to the Christian heaven, and Muslims
No,
go to the
no, no,
Muslim
no,
heaven,
no,
and
no,
they
no,
No.
both.
The
no,
same
no,
heaven,
no,
same
no, no.
heavens,
That's
same heaven.
not what
Like,
that's
No,
not what
but
the
Oh,
Andrew,
scripture says.
Andrew,
so the
yeah, yeah.
Christian God and the
he's
Like
a,
Muslim
before,
God both are in the same heaven.
look,
Oh,
Andrew,
Now's
well,
not
I
the
mean,
time
that's
he's
to
what
a,
I would
per.
believe.
okay.
I mean, it's
Like,
Andrew.
probably
like,
not
so,
time to purposely not understand what we're saying, because the point is you can have
yeah,
different
yeah,
parts
yeah,
of the you can feel different parts of the elephant, right?
Yeah, but what
And
the
you can
yeah.
think you can, and I think that's what he's saying.
let me ask Nizam. Like Nizam, you don't think that someone in 300 AD who believed that Jesus was the Son of God, you don't think they are going to heaven, right?
No, no. Well, no. Hold
Right.
on. That's because no, but that's really bad. That's like a loaded question, right? Look, someone in
What the
300
fuck is
AD
wrong with you,
that was, let's
Nizam?
say,
Come on, man.
no, no.
loaded
Hold on,
question.
hold on.
I'm just trying to
Look.
understand what you're saying.
No, no, Andrew did a good job. Like, Andrew did a pretty good job to explain what I'm saying. That basically, prior to Islam, right? If you were a Christian,
Yeah.
and I don't want to go on the specifics, right? If you were a Christian, that was sufficient for salvation before Islam came around. So that's what I believe as a Muslim. Does that make sense? Okay, and
I
then
think so.
right,
You're saying
yeah,
these other religions they were
yeah,
corrupted in some sense. So you believe in the right God, but for reasons completely outside of your control, for which there was
yeah,
no rectification, you believed some wrong things, but you were still saved because the final revelation hadn't been supplied to man. And so, because
yeah,
there was no pathway, but you still believed the correct God, so to speak, on the basis
yes,
of corrupt scripture. But you
yeah,
were still doing, you're a righteous
yeah.
person in pursuit of truth and
Essentially,
blah blah blah.
like, right. And one more point here. The reason why I'm saying this is specifically to Rob, and I'm trying to basically reduce the burden of proof that theists have, right? So then we don't have to then go around trying to falsify every other religion, for someone for someone to become a theist from an atheist. Like, does
By
that
Well,
make sense? Like, it's
so
sort of
classifying the
Nobody said you had
claims,
to do that,
right?
so
dude.
You can
I don't
Nizam.
know
reduce your
why
Hold
burden
on a second.
by becoming
why
less
he's like
outrageous.
misunderstanding this.
Nizam.
I was the
Everyone
one who
goes to
said, hey,
heaven.
if you show
So
Islam is true,
Well, you don't
every
have to
other
prove that
worldview
as
is
much, do
false.
so
you?
But Andrew,
because if
Nizam.
you've got
it's
to
look,
understand here,
if
when he
if
says
it's
worldview,
possible,
it's like a
like
complete
if it's
worldview. You can't take
no, wait,
half of
hold
Christianity
on,
and go,
hold
hey,
on.
Christianity is a worldview, is also a Christian who believes that
No,
Jesus
wait,
isn't
let me
God.
hold.
Right, so a worldview is going to be Christianity. If I said to Andrew, "Hey, Andrew, if Jesus is not God, is Christianity true?" He's going to say no. Right. So what you're
No,
trying to
of
do
course, that's
is pick and
fine.
choose
That's
like
fine.
part
That's
of a worldview.
yeah,
I
no,
mean, you
that's
can't do that. Christianity,
I
it
get
Andrew's
has
a
what you're
two
saying.
tenets.
universalist
Absent
too,
one of
dude.
those tenets,
It's basically
Christianity
he
is
is the
No,
false.
same.
of course, those are fundamental tenets. Look, you're saying. I get what you're saying. Right, just hear me out now.
You were
Look,
adamant
all
about
I'm
this
saying.
contextual
Yes,
abrogation the other day. Yes? Explain to everybody what you meant there. Go on.
yeah, I'm
This will be
trying.
very
I'm trying to.
elucidating
I'm
to
trying to.
everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Look. All I'm saying is that I believe that it's possible for the same God to send slightly different religions with slightly different commands, maybe even contradictory commands, right? And then those religions be true simultaneously. Like, those religions still be true simultaneously, even though there's contradictory commands that were sent in different times. That's all I'm trying to get at, really. Which
So
which lowers the burden of proof, I think.
no.
That's
Nazam,
all
let
I'm
me
trying to get
ask
at.
you a
So
question.
Nizam, anytime you claim that your
Why do you
religion,
think it
like
lowers the
that any
burden of
religion
proof?
that disagrees with your religion is false, then it is your burden of proof to show that they are false.
No, he doesn't have to do that. If he
No,
shows
no, not
But
Islam
he
is true,
does.
not
it's false
necessarily.
already. No, he doesn't. No, he
Not
doesn't.
not
Yeah,
No,
he
no.
I'd
necessarily.
does.
Not
say he
So
doesn't
necessarily.
have
then,
to either.
If Islam
Yeah.
is true, everything else that is not Islam is false, unless you accept
yeah.
contradictions as
So
well.
Like,
the
What
truth
I
of his
am
a different
curious
way
worldview,
to
about
say
is
the
that,
what do
the
you
truth of
mean
Negro.
his
by
worldview is
reducing the
necessarily
burden?
predicated. His worldview is necessarily predicated to shows that all religions that disagree with his are false.
Yeah, well, obviously, but he doesn't
Right.
think that's the case. He was going into it. Look,
No,
Nizam,
no, no, no. It's no.
from the
Hold
Islamic
on.
point of view,
No,
everybody's
wait.
a Muslim.
Let me
The
represent.
people who
Hold
claim
on,
to be
Rob.
Christians are in fact Muslims. They're just confused or
Let me
mistaken,
let
aren't
me
they, Nizam?
let
Same
me
with the
represent my own view.
Jews.
No,
You
I
don't seem to
appreciate you
know
trying to
your
help
own
me.
view.
I appreciate you trying to help me represent my view, but I can represent my own view by myself. Okay.
You're
But I
doing a bad
appreciate
job
your
of
help,
that.
though.
You haven't done a good
I
job
appreciate your help.
explaining.
So, Negro, what I'm saying is this, right? If a religion contradicts with the fundamental tenets of Islam, which are only 6 in number, then it is necessarily false. However, if a religion does not contradict with the fundamental tenets, like monotheism, like the belief in messengers and angels, then it is not necessarily false. It's still possible for that religion to be true. Does that make sense?
Okay, but proving monotheism is not proof that Islam is true.
Not even a worldview.
No, I'm saying that, look, any religion that aligns with monotheism can be true. It's possible for that religion. But the moment that, let's say, a religion is not a monotheist, right? A monotheistic religion, then it's necessarily false because we can prove
But
it to be so.
that
That makes
can't be the
sense?
case. Because these religions have commitments that are contradictory. Like if you
Exactly.
accept if Islam is true, then Jesus is not the Son of God. If Christianity is true,
Yeah.
then Jesus is the Son of God.
No,
You can't
of course. Like as a
reconcile that.
Muslim, no, you're
But
right. You
that doesn't
can't. I
that
agree.
does
I
that
agree. I
but
agree.
that
You
doesn't
can't.
break any.
That's why we
But
believe.
that doesn't break
Yeah.
Islam. That doesn't violate any of the fundamental principles of Islam.
No,
Yet
it does. It
presents a
does.
con
No, it does. It does.
which one
It does. Look. You should ask
which
before you
one.
assume. No, but hold on, Bob. Before you assume whether it does or it doesn't, you should ask me what I believe the fundamental tenets are, right?
Okay, but okay.
So,
I'm so sorry. I assumed
so
you
can I
had
tell
like a
you?
standard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Of course, of
Right. So can
course.
I?
I'm just saying. I
Right.
assumed you had
Okay.
some standard view.
No, well, I mean, it's not really standard. So I think the bare minimum is like there is no God but God, right?
Right.
And when I say God, I have a specific understanding of it, like self-sufficient, uncreated, and it's impossible for my God to. It's impossible for something that is born, something that is originated, to be considered God, right? So so when they say that,
Oh,
when Christians say that Jesus is the Son of God, so that would be a rational impossibility according to the
then that's fine.
Muslims.
Okay, okay. In that case,
Yeah,
it would obviously violate. But that's I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
take that to be a fundamental, like a
No, but I do
standardly
though.
taken fundamental principle. But it's fine if you think so. I'm not trying to
Well,
say you
no.
can't.
It is pretty standard. So, for example, if you go and ask Muslims, like, "Hey, how do I become a Muslim?" Right? Basically, what you're asking them is, "Hey, what are the fundamental tenets to become a Muslim?" 99 or majority of them would say that all you need to say is La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, which just means that there
Yeah,
is no God but God, right? And
but
Muhammad is his
God,
messenger.
yeah, is his
Yeah,
prophet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
it.
like I
I understand.
said,
That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
like that's
Yeah,
what a
that's
No,
it. That's it.
but
That's it.
but that's a
that's
yeah,
not a
Jew.
but there's a
response to what I just
difference,
said,
though,
though.
Bob, between being a Muslim
No,
and
how is it not?
Islam being a worldview, right?
Obviously now.
That's what
Because
he was
Jews believe the
contesting,
same thing.
Sorry, Rob.
not just being
Can
a
I just
Muslim.
finish this
It's not
little
proof. It's
particular
not
exchange?
proof.
It's
Professing
obviously not a
monotheism.
response to what I just said, because the
No,
point I'm
how
making to
come?
you is, well, that's what I'm explaining. The point I'm
Yeah,
making to
yeah.
you is that it doesn't seem to me, if you ask a random Muslim on the street, hey, what are the fundamental principles of Islam? I think if you ask 1,000 Muslims, zero of them will say something that is created can't be God. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
I
think
mean,
any of them will
yeah,
say that.
yeah.
That's
No,
not the thing. That's not on anyone's list of fundamental principles of Islam. And that's the only point I had, which is it's fine
yeah,
if you have that as your fundamental, like in your metaphysics, this has to be true. But I mean that seems kind of a you
yeah. No,
thing, not a
I get.
generic Islam thing. That's all I.
Yeah,
That's all I want to
I
say.
don't know why I'm being muted. Can you guys stop muting me? Like, because I'm having a. No, I get what you're saying, Bob. And the thing is, like, I kind of agree and disagree, right? Because, like, obviously, like, I'm not, the majority Muslims. Like when we talk about God and who God is and what God is and what is necessary for God and what is impossible for God, like these are topics that I've like gone into and studied like rationally,
That's fine. That's
right?
fine.
So like,
Yeah.
yeah. So right, but like, so when you ask a Muslim on the street, technically we can assume that's what they mean, like the way I understand it, because if they
I don't.
study,
I don't think
like,
so.
yeah, no, I know. Well, I mean, of course, like they might not be
You're
aware of it
making
because they haven't studied the
because you're
proofs.
making a
Yeah.
kind of like, you're kind of making a trivial claim where you're saying, well, if you reason like I do and you read what I've read,
No,
then you would
no, it's
come
not
to this
trivial.
conclusion.
The
So
That's
reason
trivial.
why,
Nizam, I just
well,
want
the
to
reason why it's not trivial is
is
because the way that I'm talking about these proofs, like I haven't, I'm not the one that came up with them. Like these are
No,
these
I
are
understand.
rationally established.
No,
These are rationally
I get
established.
you have. So sorry,
No,
I'm
no, these
interrupting
are,
you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. So these are rationally that were there since the beginning, like throughout the Islamic scholarship. Like they actually they develop these things.
I think if you
I, you
enumerated.
can you stop muting?
Sorry.
Someone's muting me constantly. Okay, anyway,
Nizam,
continue.
you are interrupting other people when they're speaking. Just let them finish and then you speak, right? You keep saying no, 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 yes, yes, and you keep jumping out. I told you about this yesterday. I'm not muting, obviously, I'm not a
Sorry, go
bot,
ahead.
but
Go ahead. Yeah, sorry,
please
sorry.
don't
Go
do
ahead.
that, man. It's
Go
super
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
frustrating.
So my point is, I think if you enumerated all your commitments, these six fundamental principles of Islam, I think if you wrote them out, I could just trivially come up with commitments of other religions that are inconsistent, that aren't inconsistent with them, but that where you
Right.
couldn't say, therefore Christianity and Islam is true or something. Like I think that would be trivially easy to do. And so I think the claim you can make is to say there are elements of other religions that are consistent, not only consistent with Islam, but taught by Islam. And those elements of other religions, those parts, they're kosher and they were taught correctly, but somewhere along the way, these scriptures were corrupted, the message was corrupted, and so they're retaining some true parts, some false parts, and then Muhammad came and set the record straight. I think that's the strongest claim you can make. I don't think there's anything to this like, well, these different religions can be true because at the core of it, they're going to have commitments that are just not compatible with Islam. I don't understand how you can get out of
Like
Yeah,
really,
I mean,
Nizam, like
because
Nizam,
like
literally what you're
I
doing,
haven't.
you're saying, Nizam, is that essentially because Islam is right about there, being, a God. Essentially, you're saying that, that means that, uh, basically that. Well, actually, you're saying Islam is true because it professes belief in God, like other, and that's the true thing. Which is no, my point is that's no more proof that Islam is true than Judaism is true, or Zoroastrianism, or any
Yeah.
other
Yeah, but Necro is not trying to
polytheism
Yeah.
is
show
Yeah.
that
true.
Islam is true at the moment. We're trying to
No, no, no. But
identify
yeah, yeah.
Islam as a worldview and to contrast it with every other worldview. There's no
No,
other
no. But well,
worldview
okay.
that if you take the traditional commitments of Islam, God is one, the Quran is his word, and Muhammad is the final messenger. If you just take those three as a minimum, if you say those words to anybody who understands it, everybody knows who you're talking about. They talk that's Islam, they're going to tell you, and these are Muslims who believe it. If you go to somebody on the street and you say, I believe in one God, they're not automatically going to say you're a Muslim because the Christians claim to believe in one God. There might be other people. So you've got to have more commitments to exclusively make it Islam. And once you do that, there's no other worldview in the world that is a complete worldview that can also be true. That's the point. And cherry picking certain things from other worldviews is not to say that that worldview is true. As Bob has pointed out, there are commitments that are false. So if Islam is true, every other worldview must be false. That's the
Yeah.
point,
Okay.
which
Okay.
I said at the
So.
beginning, and Nizam was like
Well.
fighting against. No, no, no. There's these other worldviews that can also be true. You're setting up too high a standard, Rob. That means I have to go show all other worldviews that have the same commitments as Islam. He didn't use these words, but all these other potentially true worldviews, I've got to show they're false too. I'm going, no, you don't. Just show me that Islam is true. But he
Because.
railed
Well.
against it
Because.
yesterday for
Okay.
like
So.
3 hours. I kid you not, 3 hours I'm driving
Well,
listening
my
to
point
this.
is that essentially
Okay.
that
So. So. So.
that
So.
if
Necro.
Islam
Necro and Bob. Necro and Bob.
If
Yo. Yo.
Islam is
Necro.
proven if Islam is proven to be true, then that logically would mean that every world that contradicts Islam would be false.
Yeah. No.
So
That's fine. Like all
That's
that is fine,
how
right?
it
But
would be
what I'm.
true, and the only way it would be true. But
No. No.
that
No.
is
Well,
not
that's
Well,
the
fine. Look.
case,
Kaka,
Look.
and
but
so
in
we could just
theory,
say we know it isn't true. Otherwise, it would be obvious.
well,
No.
Carly,
But
in
that's not what
theory,
I'm
he could disprove every other
claiming. That's
worldview,
not
but
what I'm
that's like
claiming
a
at all.
ridiculously
Okay.
hard
So.
So I
argument.
want to
So
know
that's not
more
what I'm
about
claiming
what
at
you
all.
meant by reducing the burden of proof. I think you're
Yeah. 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 So.
conceding that
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
claims of
Yeah.
religious prioritizing are
Yeah.
nonsense, and you need to
Okay. So.
ecumenize.
So let
It's
me.
damage control time, isn't it? Right? So everyone
No. It's
goes
not
to
damage control
heaven.
time.
Yeah, see,
Okay.
you're
I'll let you
triggered by
finish.
even the term. I know you
No. No.
are.
No.
You're doing damage
Okay.
control for a failing
Okay.
religion,
Are
and
you done?
everyone on stage knows it. Everyone in the audience knows it. So you're
Okay.
going to
That's fine.
say that
That's
in
fine.
Islam we all can go to heaven. You're like an Andrew Universalist type Muslim,
No. No. No.
or
No,
the
No.
no,
other
No.
religions
he's
are
What
in
I'm
fact
doing.
false and they can't save you.
Okay. Look.
oh,
Look.
let me
Look.
tell you
So.
what
So
he's
to
actually
necro.
saying.
Okay. Look.
Nazam,
Can
I'm going to
can I
characterize your
can I
view and then
represent?
you tell
No. No. No.
people
Can I
if
represent?
I'm
Can I
right or
represent
wrong,
myself
right?
for a second?
Nizam,
Can I
Nizam,
please?
No, because
Nizam.
you're sort of
Yeah.
long
Yeah.
winded and you don't get to the point.
Look. No. You.
Nazam,
You. You
falsely
guys are
thought
making claims
yesterday
about
that I was setting too high a standard.
no,
When I
no, but you
asked, can you show Islam is true? In his mind, he went, that means I'm not only got to show Islam is true, but I've got to show everything
oh
else
my
that
God.
could be true is false as well. That's what he meant yesterday by too high a standard. So what he wants is for me to show, all he has to do is show Islam is true. But that's what I said from the beginning yesterday, Carl. Just show me Islam is true. But he misunderstood this to think that I meant he had to show other worldviews are false. No, you
Okay.
don't have to do that.
But that's
Okay, okay.
generally
So
the
so
in-group
so
defense is
Necro and
to
Bob, right?
just be
What
right
I'm
because the
doing
enemy is wrong. It's
okay,
adversarialism,
you
and
guys
it's
done or
a
no?
cult
Okay, look.
mentality.
I'm speaking to okay, you guys are muting me. I'm being muted right now, so I don't know why I'm being muted. So let me speak to Necro and Bob because they feel like they're more honest
Go
interlocutors
ahead.
compared to
Go
like
ahead.
the people that are trying to make claims about my
Well,
claims
hold
and
on.
not
We
letting
only
me
took
speak.
a couple seconds to debrief for a minute. Now you're back on the train. Don't worry about
Yeah.
us doing a debrief.
So
It's too
I'm
high a
gonna.
level for you. You can talk to Bob, Rob. Now do whatever you need to do. But we all took a
Okay,
landing
you're
and
muting
took
me.
notes,
Okay, if you don't
and now
Well,
you can
if you
go
don't want to
ahead.
keep the stage honest,
Nazam,
I don't have to
Nazam,
be here. You guys can make my
Well, we
view.
know
You guys can
that.
make it look. I'm being muted. I'm continuously being muted. I don't know who's muting me right now. Look, look. If you guys don't want to let me talk on the stage and you guys want to like mute me and then start making claims about what I'm claiming without letting me actually clarify what I'm trying to claim, then there's no point of me being here. I don't have to be here. I can leave. I
Why
don't
does
really have to be
Bob
here at
need to
all.
know about this? Are you talking to Bob?
Because actually, like I was hoping to get some help because they
Nizam, can
actually
you
know what
tell me whether I accurately
I
represented you
can't.
or
I
not?
can't because I'm being muted,
Guys,
Bob.
give him a
Rob,
chance
I'm
to
being
speak,
muted.
man. Give him a
I'm being
chance,
muted right
or
now.
just kick him
I'm
off
being
the
muted.
stage if you don't want it. I mean,
Yeah,
I've
just
heard
just kick
this
me out of the
tactic
room.
before, like
yeah.
No, I'm
victim
literally
playing
being
a
muted. Like
victim that he's being muted
literally,
while,
I'm
while tapping his
every
unmute
2 seconds.
button.
I think it's not Tim. I know it's not Tim. It's Mark. Mark is muting me right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mark is the most insecure person in Clubhouse.
Yeah, he's just muting
Give
me,
us
so I can't
another
have a
big
conversation right
sniff
now.
there, Nizam. We like to hear that sniff.
Yeah. No, it's
That
fine. I mean, look.
frustrated
I was trying to have a
snort, that
conversation.
derisive snort.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was trying to have a conversation,
You
and
want
I
to
guess
go
like
for
that's not
4 hours on
possible.
this topic where Islam is not like really the true religion because others can like
No,
be true
actually, well,
sometimes.
sure. Like,
Yeah, is
okay,
Yeah.
that the
look.
conversation you still want to have?
Well, I think really the thing with
Guess not.
Nazam, yeah, I guess really the thing with Nazam is that essentially he's saying he wants to reduce the burden of proof. And so he wants to make it, the claims, well, essentially, I don't see why he's making the broad claim that Islam is true if he's going to reduce that, extraordinary claim to say that it can require, he can have a lesser burden to
He
show.
could reduce it. He can reduce it all the way to the point where we know it's false.
Well, basically, it's like, it's not proof that Islam is true. I mean, and that's kind of the thing I have. This is the reason why I have issues with theists, the arguments that they make in regards to, like, like philosophical arguments they make for God is because, the arguments that they make, I only want them to ask them before we get onto the argument is, whether they can see that the conclusion does not prove their religion is true, because that's the first sign to show whether or not they're being honest.
look, he just misunderstood yesterday. That's why he said reduce the burden of proof. All he has to do is the same thing the Christians or the atheists or the agnostics or anybody else has to do. We just need to show that our worldview, quote unquote, is true. And anything that disagrees with that or conflicts with that must be false. But he thought that when I said to him, hey, can somebody on this, one of the Muslims here, show me why Islam is true? He thought that I meant not only has he got to do that, but he's got to show every other worldview is false. Now he comes on stage here and goes, no, no, no. What I meant is all that I had to do was show Islam was true. But that's what I said to him at the beginning. So when he says reduce the burden of proof, all he means by that, because he had a misunderstanding, is the same thing that we ask anybody else to do. Show Christianity is true, show Islam is true, whatever other view is true. That's not reducing it. It would only be reducing it if I said, hey, Nizam, show me every other worldview is false and Islam is true.
Yeah,
Then that
well,
would be like a ridiculous burden for anybody to discharge.
and I think it's interesting though. It's like, he complains about having to prove other religions be false. And I said, well, if your worldview is claiming that all the religions that, say your worldview is false, I mean, that necessitates that if your worldview is true, then all other religions are false. I mean, it's like if I said that the butler did it, that logically means that I'm saying that, that the professor, that, the maid, that they didn't do it, because that contradicts my claim that the butler did it.
Yeah, but you're not saying anything with none of any of us disagree with. I'm pointing out why he said the words, I want to reduce the burden of proof, because he had a misunderstanding of what I meant by show Islam is true. He thought he had to do more than show Islam is true. And I tell you, because I was driving yesterday for about 3.5 hours, this went on for at least 2.5 hours. His misunderstanding. The other Muslims had to jump in. He went for this whole thing of I've you've got to accept that there's a contextual abrogation, was his words. First there was Judaism, that was then superseded by Christianity, and then Islam superseded that. And I asked him one question, because he's a Muslim or claims to be a Muslim. I asked him, hey, when did Islam start? He said 1400 years ago. I said, you obviously don't even know your own religion. A Muslim thinks that Adam was the first Muslim. So to say that Islam started 1400 years ago, you've completely forgotten your own theology. Everybody's a Muslim. They think that, there's an innate fitra, that everybody has a sense of a single God. And the only reason people deny it is because they are like off the path or whatever. They're not, being in their true selves or whatever nonsense they want to portray. So he doesn't
So
even
why
know
do you
his
talk
own
about all this
theology.
every day? I have a question for you. So every day I come here on Clubhouse, you all are talking about, does God exist? Is Islam right? If somebody from Islam comes here and tries to explain it to you, you just keep muting people, and then you don't even want to listen to anyone, right? So why do you keep having these conversations? Like right now, I was see, you just don't,
What?
you really right.
I mean, I think really the issue is we don't see really any arguments being put forward proving that Islam is true. I mean, it's just complaining.
It's more than that, man. It's that arguments for it have to be made at all.
Yeah.
I
I
just throw my
mean,
hands up. Like, why do you have to bother with all this wordplay to get to something that must be so obvious? And then it's not obvious. And that's why ecumenism is happening. That's why universalism is happening. Everyone goes to heaven. Sin doesn't really matter because they know the claims have always been outrageous, unsubstantiated, and frankly just unappealing to listen to.
well, I think it's interesting though. You have a person, she's in the chat right now. She's complaining about how, like, I mean, that, yeah, we don't want to listen to people who say that they have evidence and then they spend 2 hours just trying to suggest that we're being unfair because we're asking them to demonstrate that what they're claiming is true. I mean, Rob, you said 2 hours yesterday, and he just went completely tiptoeing around the really central question that you asked him, and then acted as if you didn't ask that question. So I agree. I don't think it's important for us to waste our time with those people.
But I think it's also because he's been taking L's recently, so he's very cautious of anything I ask, because he thinks, oh shit, if I get caught here, like, so he's like trying to head it off at the pass. But it was a totally normal question that I'd ask anybody else. But because he's like got his defenses up, he's like trying to see through it and trying to think that there's some, like, I don't know, what's the word? Like, I've got something hidden behind this that I'm going to whip out at the last minute or something. I don't know.
So, looks like we have somebody in the chat who says that he knows that Islam is true. It's interesting. I think we should let him speak to just give him a chance to be able to show in one sentence why Muhammad, a man who sexually assaulted a 9-year-old and who committed war and who tortured people to extract wealth, why he believes he was chosen by God to be the final messenger to the rest of the world. Anytime you're ready, Dr. Z. Or actually, you can put it in the chat if you're afraid to come up.
I think Dr. Z is actually female.
Like I said, Dr. Z, if you're afraid to come up, then just put it in the chat. Your reason why you think that a man who sexually assaulted a 9-year-old, who waged war, and who tortured Jews to extract wealth, why you think he was chosen by God.